Hey everybody, part 2 of required minimum distributions. This is going to be really important. This is going to be how you're going to calculate these required distributions. So the previous in this series, part 1, is about the rules and regulations we have to deal with. And the next part is really going to be important. This is how you're going to deal with the problems that are involved with these required distributions. So let's dive into how we're going to calculate a required distribution. For a couple of things we need to know, okay? Your age at the end of the year, okay? So I need to know what your age will be at the end of the year, and I need to know the value of all your IRA money at the beginning of the year. So December 31st, close of the stock market, every custodian has to record the value of your IRA and send it to the IRS. They've got their crosshairs on it, so they know how much IRA money you have. They don't care how many accounts you have. They need to know the lump sum total amount of IRA money you have at the end of last year, technically the beginning of this year, okay? Value of your money at the beginning of the year, your age at the end of the year. Then we ask a few questions about your situation to weed out any of the weird scenarios. Is your spouse more than 10 years younger than you? Different way to calculate. And what about, is this inherited? And if so, when and from whom? Because the rules changed for 2020. And you've got a whole set of rules for inherited IRAs before 2020 and a whole set of rules after 2020. And there's different scenarios. If you inherit it from a sibling versus a parent, there's some different rules we get to deal with. So it's important that we get all the information first, and then we can go through and decide how to calculate the required distribution. For the vast majority of us, it is called the uniform distribution table. If you're just a single person and you're 72 and you need to know, or 72 or older, you need to know how to calculate your required distribution, you're going to use the uniform distribution table. If your spouse is not more than 10 years younger than you, meaning she's closer to age, or he or she is closer to age to you than 10 or more years, then you're going to use this same distribution table, okay? If you happen to have that spouse that's more than 10 years older than you, younger than you, still go cross-eyed. So if your spouse is more than 10 years younger than you, then we have a whole separate table to calculate required minimum distributions. And that's because the money needs to last longer for that younger spouse, okay? If you happen to inherit this money if the person passed away after 2019, meaning 2020 or sooner, then we have a 10-year distribution rule for the most part. A couple weird little exceptions here and there. If you inherited it from a spouse, then the one new thing that you can do, not new now, but thing that a spouse can do that nobody else can do, is you can assume it as your own. And that's what most scenarios call for. Most spouses that inherit IRA money, they are just going to roll it into their own, take their own required minimum distributions, treat it as their own, okay? So let's look at these tables. The uniform distribution table is 99% of us, okay? And what you'll notice here is you've got a chart that comes from the IRS. You've got the age, and then you've got that RMD factor there, okay? It's not a percentage. That's why I equated it to a percentage on the other side here. You got 72 starts at about 3.6% on up to 50% at 120. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every single year, okay? So notice at 72, the number next to 72 is 27.4. That is not a percentage. You don't have to pull 27.4% of your portfolio out. That's ridiculous. Okay, it's a divisor. That's how they have this done, is they use a divisor, not a percentage of the portfolio. So in my example, you have $500,000, you're 72, your divisor is 27.4. Value of your money at the beginning of the year, age at the end of the year, find your divisor, divide 500,000 by 27.4, and your required minimum distribution is $18,248.18. Hopefully that makes sense. And every year that percentage gets bigger because the divisor gets smaller. If you divide something by 2, that's 50% you're pulling out. If you divide something by 10, it's a much smaller number. Okay, so understand that the amount you have to pull out is not an actuary table, because actuaries don't have everybody living to 120, right? So this money is supposed to be a lifetime of withdrawals for you. And the way the math works out, if you have yourself earning 1.5% to 2% every single year, that's it. It'll be about a flat distribution schedule until you get to your mid-90s, and then it tails off. Okay. So if you earn more than that, great. If you have it in the stock market fluctuating, your required distribution is going to be all over the board. If you have a nice stable portfolio, it's going to be a lot more predictable. That's the way this math works. But the important part is remembering you have to pull it out every year. You're responsible for it. Okay. So having a turbulent portfolio and pulling money from there is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. If you don't need the money and you want to pass it to your heirs and all you're doing is reinvesting it, turbulence is fine, because you're just going to move the position over to a different tax class. You're just going to move the positions. You don't even have to sell the investment. Okay. If you happen to be married somebody that's more than 10 years younger than you, they have a whole separate chart. This chart is enormous because it goes from 72 all the way up to 120. But then for the younger spouse, it goes all the way down to 18 years old. Don't get any ideas. But if you want less of a required minimum distribution, the younger your spouse is, the less your required minimum distribution is. So it's pretty simple. You find your age on the chart. You find your spouse's age on the chart. Remember, it's the age at the end of the year. Okay. You find the divisor where it meets, and you take that and do your math. 500,000 in savings divided by 30.4 in this case gives you a required distribution of $16,447. Okay. So it's really that simple. That's the vast majority of us. When it comes to required minimum distributions for heirs, that 10-year distribution schedule has changed things significantly. You have to have a plan. And unfortunately, there's too many advisors out there that have no idea what they're doing. They don't know the rules changed in 2020. I'm finding so many problems out there these days when it comes to inherited IRA money. Whoever's going to inherit your money is going to need help. Okay. IRA money, you have 10 years to get the money out of tax status. If you're inheriting it from a non-spouse, if you inherit it from your parents or brother or sister or cousin or uncle or whoever, you have 10 years to get IRA money out. And the way taxation works, you want to distribute that along amongst your lifespan. Okay. It's very important that you create your own schedule. The day you inherit IRA money, you got to sit down and look at your next 10 years and figure out how to get it all out at the lowest taxation possible. Whereas if you inherit Roth money, again, there's no schedule. It says pull it out in 10 years. And that's what I want you to do. Leave it in there, let it grow for 10 years, completely tax-free, and then pull it out all at once at no taxation. That's the best thing you could do with that Roth money. IRA, don't procrastinate. Got to have a plan right away. All right. So hopefully that helps out in understanding required minimum distribution calculations. That's all we really wanted to tackle in this video. We've got lots more to talk about. We got all the problems that we have to deal with and how to handle them coming in the series. So come back, make sure you get those. If you need help with any of this, we're always happy to help out. The email address and phone number on the screen here is the easiest ways to get a hold of us. We are live via Zoom nationwide now, and also we certainly can help out in other countries too. We have clients all over the world now. So happy to help out. Required minimum distributions are kind of that dance between that financial planner and the tax man. And we own a tax firm, and it's regular business for us. It's normal for what we do. We go through and look at IRA money and deal with IRA money and required distributions, inherited money, all that, all the time. That's what we specialize in. Give us a call, share this with others, come back, watch the next in this series. I'm sure I'll have it out next week. Sounds good. Hope to see you soon. Bye.